Well, hey, everyone. Welcome to season number 2 of the Speak Life podcast. This is your podcast where we speak hope and life and allow the words of encouragement to inspire us to a very bright future. My name is Chris Lindberg, and I'm hosting today. I'm the pastor of Life Fellowship Church. And today I am beyond thankful that my good friend Shelley Beaty is here with us. Shelley, I have gotten to know you and your husband, Jeff, and man, my wife and I, Tatum and I, we have fallen in love with the two of you guys. We're so thankful for the friendship and to see all that God has done on the inside of you, and really the impact that you've personally made in Tatum's life and my life. Before we get into all that, tell us just a little bit about, tell us about you, kind of your background. Where'd you grow up? And
well, thanks for having me. My name is Shelley. I grew up in West Texas and moved to East Texas my senior year in high school. I did gymnastics, had an ACL injury, reconstruction, and then so that was kind of the end of my athletic career after that, and going into early adulthood.
Well, you grew up in West Texas.
I did, yeah.
I don't feel like I hear an accent in you.
I try really hard not to.
Okay. Do you ever get it when you go back?
No. I rarely go back.
Okay.
And then, so when, fast forward, Jeff and I got married, and my idea of exercise was literally step aerobics, and I hated it. I didn't feel good about my body. I had a lot of self-image issues. I had an unhealthy relationship with food. That kind of followed me into, several years of our marriage. And we started out doing triathlon. I guess we started out mountain biking first. And I wasn't really comfortable doing it, but my husband was, so I just kind of went along, and then our friends started doing triathlon, and I kind of felt left out. So
wait a second. You were doing mountain biking, and you were doing that because you were supporting Jeff, your husband.
Yes.
Which, by the way, let me just say, that is actually a great secret that a lot of ladies don't realize. One of the best ways to get a closer relationship with your husband or with that guy is actually doing things, because guys connect when we do things. So like when we're mountain biking and we're hunting, we're playing football or baseball or, shooting pool or something like that. And ladies, a lot of times, by and large, they connect when they are just, when they're talking, and they sit down on the couch and they talk. And so I think that's I know we're going to talk about health and all that, but from a relational standpoint, hats off to you to get vested into your husband's world like that.
Yeah, I think it was probably the best thing we ever did for our marriage. Then our friends started doing triathlon, and Jeff got into triathlon, and I couldn't stand on the sidelines anymore, so I did triathlon. I think we did triathlon for a total of 13 years, and then the last 4, we started doing Ironman. Wait a second, how many triathlons have you done? I don't even know how many triathlons. Been multiple triathlons, so...
And then how many Ironmans?
We did 5 Ironman.
You did 5 Ironmans?
Yes, yeah.
Now, I'm going to tell you today that if I tried to run maybe a quarter mile, like right now, I would be so out of breath. I can't, I just don't have that in me.
Yeah, it's a different beast. I don't have that in me now. But
is it because you're competitive? Do you have a competitive nature to you?
I do have a competitive nature, and I love feeling like an athlete, and just having a goal to shoot for. So that was something that we really enjoyed, and it helped get me out of my comfort zone, so to speak. Because when I first signed up for an Ironman, I didn't think I'd actually finish it. I think I just did it because it was something to do. It was the next step. And it was just training one day, 1 week at a time, building up that endurance where I finally started to truly believe that I could do it, and actually became a pretty strong cyclist. And middle of the pack swimmer, which was an accomplishment for somebody who had to actually learn how to swim to be able to do her first triathlon.
You signed up to do this. You didn't really know how to swim.
My first triathlon, I didn't. By the time I got to Ironman, I knew how to swim.
Okay.
But so it was it was something that really grew me. The one thing that was missing was nutrition and a healthy relationship with food. I still struggled, even with all of that training. I mean, in our peak, we would be training anywhere from 22 to 25 hours a week of swim, bike, run, which is a lot. And I just didn't eat to support it because I still had such an unhealthy relationship, believed all the misinformation, and it just was, I think I would have been a different athlete had I focused on nutrition.
Understood the relationship of how food affects your body and what have you. Because there's a lot of myths and all kinds of things out there. We'll get to those, I think, in a moment. But, you know, I've heard you already mention a couple of times that there was some kind of almost a wrong view of health and body image and relationships with food. And I want to have you talk to that a little bit because, I mean, today you are a health and fitness coach. You've come alongside Tatum and I. You've given us like so much wisdom and encouragement and hope. And we've seen like tremendous things happen in our lives. So like when I'm on the platform and I'm speaking and I'm like, everybody, my coaches told me like, you can only work out 5 days a week and I can't do 6. It's Shelley, everybody. Shelley's the one that's telling Tatum and I and really coaching us and helping us because we had a lot of different false ideas of what this whole thing looks like. And really what the goal of today is that I really wanted to have you be introduced to a variety of different people because I think the gifting that God has given you is something very unique. It's something that everybody is searching for. Like, how do you be healthy physically? How do you have a great self-confidence about yourself and be able to have even greater influence in the culture that we live in? And how do we honor God with our body? Like our body is the temple of the Holy Spirit. And so we take care of our cars, we take care of our homes and our yards. And yet a lot of times our bodies, we don't rest, we don't eat right, we don't exercise. Right. And then they start breaking down. And if your body is not in top shape, you're not going to be very effective for God's work and his plan for you in this earth.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think also if you are not, because for me, you know, I've always done, since we were first married for the past 26 years, I've done some sort of exercise, some sort of sport, but I was never, I guess, healthy mentally. Like for some people, it's just they truly just need to get healthy physically. For me, it was listening to those lies my whole life, like that voice that just you're fat, you're not good enough, and so that was a real struggle that I had.
So wait a second, you were this great athlete. You're doing all these triathlons. You can't even count the amount of triathlons. I know I've done 1.5, and yet. You've done all of these, plus you were doing Ironman, and yet you were struggling with some of this stuff internally. So here you are in great shape and what have you, and yet, you know, I mean, you could run, how many miles is that? 26 miles?
Yeah, it's a marathon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can do all that stuff, and yet you had these struggles. Talk to me about that a little bit.
I did. I struggled with good foods and bad foods. I went through a lot of periods, and unfortunately, my kids had to go through that with me, and that's what they had to see. Is I really villainized certain foods, and I believed the whole organic thing. You know, everything had to be organic, and if I would eat something that I wasn't supposed to eat, I was filled with tremendous food guilt. I was never actually diagnosed with an eating disorder, but I probably would have been at one time. I do remember just struggling, like training, going and riding a 120-mile training ride, and then doing 45-minute run afterwards, and then feeling so much guilt because we would enjoy pizza, you know, at the end of that when I just burned many calories. And so I did struggle a little bit with purging, even into adulthood. And it was just one of those things you'd wake up in the middle of the night, you'd feel like you're fat. There's a lot of people, it is very, very common in females. But
I was about to say, isn't that a lot more common with ladies than
it is, men? But there are more and more young men and boys that really struggle with it as well. They just don't talk about it as much. Fortunately, people are starting to talk about it now and realizing, that it's a hidden, secret, I guess, that you live with. I'm pretty open with it now because that is one of the reasons I do what I do. Because when I finally started learning about nutrition and I finally started learning there are no good and bad foods, it's simply just fueling your body for the purpose that you have. What is your goal? What do you need? Certain bodies need more fuel than others because certain people do more things than others. And when I learned that, that's when I started finding food freedom. I did that by hiring a coach myself. Went into it very skeptical. I've never been able to follow meal plans. I never had a coach that could tell me why we were doing something. They would just give me a meal plan, say, this is what we're doing.
This is what you're supposed to eat. And it was miserable. And you didn't like it. And
it was very restrictive.
I got to do this for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And everyone says, this is my new lifestyle. This is my new eating style or whatever. And it's like, if I got to eat that for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I don't want to live,
No.
Because I think God created great food for us to enjoy.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And I think that's one of the, I always feel that's one of the tools of the enemy, I say, just really making you doubt yourself and it becomes very destructive, very self-destructive. You'll never reach your full potential. You'll never be as healthy as you can. And I think hiring a coach, learning about that, and it's been a long journey for me. Like even the past year, I've even grown even more, so it's completely it's always evolving. It's not something that happens overnight, but learning about nutrition, learning how to eat, giving myself the permission to eat foods that are called sometimes foods, I guess, foods that you don't want to eat every day if you want to have certain goals, but foods that you can enjoy sometimes without guilt. I remember our first conversation. Sure. You were like, what do you mean I can have a cheeseburger? I'm like, yeah, not every day.
You said you can eat a donut. You can eat what? You can. Mm-hmm. Yeah, as long as you understand where your targets are at and what your body actually needs.
Yeah. I mean, you could choose to eat a donut, but if you have certain goals, it might make it a little bit more difficult. You might have to be a little hungrier, but if you really want that donut, you learn how to do it and you eat it, and it takes that power away.
What do you think for you was a defining moment? You talk about, okay, here, I was an athlete. And again, there may be a lot of folks that are watching today that they're like, I've never run an Ironman. I am not athletic. I'm just trying to, if she can make this change and she was doing all these things, what hope is there for me? And so I would love for you just to, first of all, speak about like, what was the change that happened in you when you started recognizing these wrong mindsets about yourself and going, I gotta change that on the inside of me?
Yeah, I think in the beginning, it started out when I started with these goals. It was very aesthetic purpose. Like I wanted to look a certain way. I had this dream that I wanted to look, and I was going to be happy when. And
that's that competitive nature in you. Okay.
Yeah. And then, I did go through years where I really put on a ton of muscle. I learned a lot about nutrition. I stepped way out of my comfort zone, did some bodybuilding competitions. I won a title, and so all of these things. But then I would still struggle. I would still struggle with body image. I remember, when you are stage lean, you can't stay that way. You cannot stay that. It's not healthy, mentally, physical. It's just not sustainable. But I remember just crying in my closet because I had gained 4 pounds essentially overnight. But what it was fiber, it was more food, it was more sodium. I understand these things now, but at that time I didn't. And it was just, for years, it was something that just plagued me, was this body image. And I started coaching, and even when I was coaching people, and I was coaching women mostly in the beginning because I wanted to help them the same way that my coach, who's now one of my best friends, Holly, had helped me. But I was still struggling with a lot of things. And I do believe in the last couple of years, God has truly healed me of that and reminded me that, He created me and He's given me the ability to to be able to do what I do. And for me to constantly just negatively talk about my physique or my body, it's just, it goes against, I guess, everything he wants for me. And I think one of the biggest things was that study. I don't know if you remember that study about water, where they spoke to the water.
Yes.
And there were like positive, when they spoke positive things to the water, the crystals were beautiful and they were, beautiful designs. And then the water that they spoke negatively to, it was like broken design, just ugly. And we're 70% water or more, And so it's like, okay, what we say and what we think really does affect us. And so...
Yeah, God has given us the power of life and death. It's in our mouth. And that study was a fascinating study where these scientists, they spoke to water and then put it underneath a microscope, and the molecules actually changed based on the words that we spoke. Because people don't realize that our words are not inconsequential. We are made in the same image and likeness of God. And so when we speak, it matters.
Yeah.
And so our words are how we speak about our life and our future. Like they make a difference. They'll make a difference in our kids. They make a difference in our mindset. And so a lot of times, Jesus said that as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. And out of the abundance of your heart, your mouth speaks. And so for a lot of folks, we're speaking these negative things like, I'm never gonna get my health right, and I might as well just give up, and it's just never gonna happen. And we begin to actually believe those lies if we say them long enough.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of people are at, because they don't have the tools. And so like, hats off to you for saying, you know what, I need to get a coach. Which this boggles my mind. Here you are, an Ironman athlete. You got all this stuff, and you recognized I need some extra help in my life because I need to understand how food really affects my body. Right? That was the big thing, because I'm tired of living in this cycle of what would you call it? Would it be?
Well, for me, it was a little bit of, there would be times where I would kind of lose a little bit of weight, or start feeling, my idea back then was the smaller, the better. My idea has changed since then, but back then it was the smaller I was, the better. But I would never know how I got there, because it was never done with any knowledge. It was never done with anything that was sustainable. And certainly couldn't keep it, So for me personally, I maybe had bounced around just a few pounds, up and down, but it was, I've lost my train of thought.
Well, the thing is that the summer is just right around the corner.
It is, yes.
And I see all kinds of things on social media, which, by the way, let me just say this. They've said that the life of a teenage girl is probably one of the loneliest places on the planet.
Yeah.
And you add to that life of a teenage girl, you add to that social media and all of the images that they see and that they're trying to live up to. And it just feels like this never ending cycle of, I'm just never going to be enough.
Yeah. Yeah. When women my age were growing up, we had magazines, but now they've got social media and they're very, interactive. And it's not just young girls. It's even my clients. I've had them say, I want to look like so-and-so, and comparing them to someone they see on Instagram. And I'm like, you don't understand what that person, first of all, they're posed right. They've got the right lighting. They've got photoshopping, and they have.
And even more photoshopping.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a little more photoshopping after that.
Exactly. And even when they are super lean, it's
not sustainable.
It's not sustainable. I mean, I have friends of mine that I know that are well known in the fitness industry, and they will get shredded for a photo shoot, and they'll do 10 photo shoots during that period of time, and they'll use those photos for the next 2 years. So people think that they're shredded year round, and it's just not sustainable. And social media is something I've actually backed away from watching a lot, looking at social media and being on it a whole lot, because even as a 52-year-old woman, it affects me too. And so it's just, you do have to be careful. I have clients that I have to tell them, like, look, what this person does to look this way, are you willing to do that? There's a lot of sacrifice. There's a difference between just being healthy, eating, right, being, able to be active, putting on muscle for longevity, as opposed to having a very restricted lifestyle to look a certain way. But you can't live when you look that way. You can't enjoy life. And so I think even as a coach, I have found balance in the last few years in helping my clients find that balance as well.
So with all of the advertisements that I see out on, it's all over the internet. Okay, summer's coming, all this stuff, and in order for somebody to begin to get healthy, like when you look at some of those different advertisements, like what goes through your mind when you see them?
There's they'll have like a 12-week challenge or an 8-week challenge, and so people expect to go from looking a certain way to being completely healthy or reaching their goals at the end of 8 to 12 weeks. Sure. And I hate those, because when you see those really amazing transformations, typically somebody has done a lot of work on the other end before that. They've put on the muscle. They have spent time out of a calorie deficit. And when they spend 8 to 12 weeks in a fat loss phase, they look quite different at the very end. They're shapely. Their muscles are, very defined. But when somebody who has not put in that work and they see that and they want to go through an 8 or 12-week challenge and they're very restrictive during that period of time, they get very disappointed at the end of that. One, now their calories are so low, they're not sustainable at all. And two, they don't look like what they thought they would because they don't have the muscle. And so it sets them up for disappointment and then weight regain. Okay,
so what would you say to somebody that is wanting to begin a new chapter in their life? Like, I've had enough. I'm ready to make some changes. Whether they've, from maybe they've never done any exercise in their life. Maybe they've tried some fad diets like keto and paleo and the carnivore diet and vegan diets. All these different diets there's so many different kinds of diet. What is it? The South Beach diet. There's just a lot. What would you say to somebody that is thinking, you know what? I need to make some changes in my life. Not just from, hey, I want to look better, but I want to feel better. I want to sleep better. I want to represent God better. Like, what would the process be for them? Like, what would you start looking at?
Well, depending if someone is like brand new, we kind of have to go slowly, and there's steps to it. And people get a little impatient. They're like, "Well, I'm ready to," but we can't do that. You can't just jump off into the deep end if you don't know how to swim.
That would be me. I'm very impatient, especially when I'm driving in Dallas. That's one of my pet peeves, people that drive slow in the fast lane. Yeah. Lord have mercy. Jesus, help us. Okay, I'm sorry. I distracted you.
No. So what I like to do is I like to take a couple weeks and just see what they're doing. I like them to start teaching them how to track their food, or log their food.
So talk about that for a second, because some people don't understand. So here's the thing that shocked people. Like when I've talked about like what you've asked Tatum and I to do, when you say track your food, that means measure all of your food and then put it into an app that tells you exactly what the makeup of that food is.
Yeah.
And right? Is that really what it is?
That's it. And I know it sounds it sounds restrictive. And when you're first learning, it has to be, because you're learning, right? And you want to be as accurate as possible. So you need to be able to weigh your food and you need to be able to log it. And it's a process you have to learn. So we kind of start with
Wait, time out. Can I just say this, that when I've told people that I've done that, I've had so many people that have rolled their eyes and thought, oh my goodness, I don't ever want to do it.
Yeah.
But you don't even realize what you're eating.
Yeah. No.
Like, I had no idea. Remember, I told you in the beginning, I said, every single night, I love a good bowl of mixed nuts. Oh, I just love that. I would just love, because it's just a little bowl of mixed nuts. And then you had me track it. And it was like packed.
Oh, yeah.
Packed with all kinds of calories. And I'm going, this little thing doesn't even satisfy me. It's just something I enjoy. And it's actually fighting against my goals.
I always say that not everybody needs to track forever. Some people, if you have specific goals, if you really are trying to put on a certain amount of muscle, or you want to get to a certain amount of leanness or maintain that, then yeah, you need to be a bit more meticulous with your tracking and track long term. But I think everybody should track for a period of time, just because it teaches you so much.
I can't even begin to describe to you how much I've learned. Like now I go to restaurants and in my mind, I've been doing it now for a year. I can almost tell you exactly how many grams a certain piece of chicken is, or the broccoli or what have you.
Yeah.
And I go, okay, I got space for such and such, so I can have a little bit of dessert here. I can do what I want to do.
Yeah. And you know that you guys have been doing this for coming up on a year now. And I think that if I said, okay, Chris, I don't want you to track for a week, you would probably be pretty close to what you normally did if you were still as intentional, because you've learned so much over the week, over the year.
So when you say track, you're talking about tracking a thing called macros.
Yeah.
And that was something I didn't even know. I mean, I've heard them use that term, macros, but what is a macro?
Macro it's our protein, carbs, and fat. So it just breaks it down. Like we need of those macros, the essential, which means what you need to live and thrive, are protein and fat. And you need X amount of protein.
I don't need carbs to live?
You don't need carbs to live.
But I need some pizza.
But carbs are very, very good, and they get a bad rap, but we need them for energy. It's our body's best source of easy energy. And if you have any goals, especially of sports or endurance, people who want to run or just feel better or to build muscle, carbohydrates are very beneficial. And they get such a bad, people are like, I'm going to cut out my carbs. Don't cut out your carbs. Carbs are really, they're what make us happy to eat. If you cut them out, you're going to be very restrictive. Carbs are not just, I think people, when they think of carbs, they think of high processed, foods. But carbs are anything from your sweet potatoes, your white potatoes, your vegetables, even your leafy greens have carbohydrates in them, very small, but, they have a good source of fiber, and we need that for our healthy GI. So it just teaches you. So when you have proteins, carbs, and fat, you need so much amount of protein. And depending on your goal and depending on your age, the average woman gets about 60 to 70 grams of protein a day here in America.
Okay, and talk about this here, 60 to 70.
Yeah.
And how much do they need?
They need, just in general, if you're not going, the number is anywhere between 0.7 to 1 gram per pound. And as we get older, women and men too, but especially women into perimenopause and menopause need more protein. That's because our bodies are not as efficient with utilizing the protein as it was when we were younger. So we actually need more to, maintain muscle, even much less than to grow muscle. And most people don't eat enough protein. And so somebody like yourself, you eat way more than 1 gram per pound. I eat more than 1 gram per pound. So there is no upper limit as long as you're a healthy individual as to how much protein you can eat. But they haven't found the top end, but they are starting to think there is or there could be like only so much where you don't get return.
So when you say track, you would need something to kind of track it in as far as an app.
Yes.
That you can take it with you wherever you go. Is there one that you kind of lean to that you're like, oh, I like this one, or maybe there's a couple of them?
There's a couple of them. There is one called Carbon Diet Coach. And there is carbon. Yeah.
Okay. Like carbon monoxide and all, just carbon.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there is Macrofactor. And then MyFitnessPal is pretty popular. The only problem with MyFitnessPal is anybody can add an entry into the food database. And if you're not careful, that doesn't mean it's correct. So if I just add in, for my chocolate cake and I make it, 50 grams of protein, no fat, no carbs, and you just kind of grab that one, you're going to be incorrect. Yeah. So that's kind of the downfall with MyFitnessPal, but that one you can get for free.
Okay. The one that Tatum and I use is called Carbon.
I think it's about $10 a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it makes it really easy. I mean, you
It's
can
super
scan
easy.
everything and it's
Yeah.
got all the food in there. If you go out to eat, let's just say you go to Outback and you get
Yeah.
a 6-ounce sirloin,
Yeah.
it's got
Yeah.
it's got it all programmed. It's got it all in there.
It does. And they, labels can, are misleading with calories. So if there's fiber in there, they can remove the calories from the fiber legally. And it's really a marketing tool because, so in carbon, it corrects that. So it's the macro label rather than the actual label. I know that doesn't make a lot of sense here, but
So what you're saying then is that if somebody is going, man, I want to see some change, the first thing is, one thing I think was interesting is that they need to have a motivation. What's the goal? What's the purpose of it?
Yeah. Everybody, you kind of need that why. I always try to get people to be realistic about their goals and their why. I mean, don't say you want to be, look like somebody who could stand on the Olympia stage, but yet you only want to go to the gym once a week and you don't really want to track everything and you don't want to be so restrictive. So make sure that your goals match what you are ready, willing, and able to do, and your lifestyle too. I wouldn't necessarily start somebody out brand new and say you need to start tracking, but we do need to start being more aware. Grabbing a food scale is a great start. I mean, anybody who knows, if you've ever weighed out 1 tablespoon of peanut butter or 1 serving of peanut butter, it's quite disappointing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's really eye-opening for, serving size. We eat way too much. People underreport how much they eat and overreport how much activity they do. And so it can...
So what we're saying is that somebody needs to find their goals and figure out the reason why. Maybe it's I want to sleep better. Maybe I want to look better. I need some more self-confidence. I really want to represent the Lord better in how I handle the temple of the Holy Spirit, which the Bible says that's what our bodies are.
Yeah.
Like I want to be around for my grandkids. I want to be a better parent for my kids. I want to have more energy, whatever those goals are. That's really, really important. Yeah. And number 2, it's really important to find out what you're eating.
Yes.
Because
it's important to find out what you're eating and how much you're eating and what your body needs and your actual requirements. One thing I will say, I have started to. You really need to learn the importance. It's not just about aesthetics. I mean, it truly is about longevity. And starting about age 35, you start to lose muscle mass, muscle wasting.
Wait, how much a year? What do the studies show?
Okay. So the studies are about, I think they say about, is it 1% a year? Starting in your 30s.
And you lose 1% of your muscle
mass. This is for somebody who doesn't do anything to combat that.
Okay.
By the time we get to the age, then it increases each year pretty dramatically each decade. And by the time you get to 60, it is pretty substantial how much muscle you end up losing. There is a photo going out there about, it shows a triathlete, I can't remember the age, let's say he's 25-year-old triathlete. And then it's a CT where you can see the muscle and the fat. And then the next one is a 70-year-old sedentary male. And then the third one is a 70-year-old triathlete. And the muscle between the 26-year-old and the 70 is pretty similar because he's still training and using his muscles. But if we are sedentary, that really muscle wasting just increases so quickly. And that is so, I always say that muscle is a fountain of youth. And if you can build muscle and continue to build muscle and maintain muscle, it's going to help you as you age and get older. Do you want to have somebody help you get to the toilet, or do you want to be able to travel, when you're 70 years old? So it really is a decision that we need to make when we're younger. And so learning to change your body, it is overwhelming in the beginning. There is a lot that you have to, changing any lifestyle, changing what you do is hard. It's not easy. Nutrition and fitness is not necessarily complicated. But it's not easy because we have to make real lifestyle changes. And so I always say, I like baby steps. I like people to take baby steps, one step at a time. And I don't know who said it, but my favorite quote is, little by little, a little becomes a lot. And it's true. You just start changing one little habit at a time. And before you know it, a year later, you look like a completely different person. Your lifestyle looks completely different. And it's just, I know it can direct, how you're going to live the rest of your life. And as we get older, I start to appreciate that. I'm like, okay, I didn't see that when I was in my 20s. I didn't care about that when I was in my 20s, but I sure do now.
Yeah, at the beginning of the year, I spoke a message series all about the fact that don't just see what's going to happen in the next 3 months or 4 months. Think longer. Like, if I do this for the next year, the next 3 years, the next 5 years, what incredible changes will happen to me.
Yeah.
And I think about that in the area of your finances. I think that in your walk with God. I think that in the area of your health. How would you encourage somebody to stay motivated? Because that's the big thing. A lot of people are like, they got the gusto, let's go make this happen. And then
Yeah. So a lot of people, they get whatever it is that motivates them, whether it's an upcoming vacation or, a wedding or some event, they get super motivated. Motivation is fleeting. And so you have to, if you're relying on motivation to get you to your goal, you're going to be disappointed. So we have to really set, healthy habits and discipline over time. I always tell people, don't start when it comes to some of these fad diets and they have these big promises, such as, I don't have anything against keto, but I couldn't follow a keto diet. So if I was like, okay, could I lose X amount of weight on a keto diet? Sure. Could I stick to it the rest of my life? Absolutely not. So I always tell people, don't start something you can't do for the rest of your life. And I think that's why I like teaching people about macros. You don't have to track forever, but you start to learn how to be able to reach your goals. And it's something you can absolutely do for the rest of your life, and cutting out major food groups is not something that if you enjoy breads and you enjoy carbohydrates, a keto diet's not going to be for you. And so,
I've told people that an encounter with God will set you free, but it is the habits in your life that keep you free. And I would say the same thing when it comes to motivation. There could be the wedding, or there could be, hey, it's summer, it's coming around the corner, and that's my motivation. And that can get you going, but it's your habits. And I'll always say this, that your habits are stronger than your desires. Everybody's got a great desire to get close to God. Everybody's got a habit to get their finances right, or to get in shape, or get healthy, or what have you. But your habits will not, your motivation will not sustain you. It's your habits.
It's your habits, and being consistent, and
and then they make it easy.
Yeah,
it's not difficult,
right? And one of the things I always say is, people are like, "Well, you're consistent." They're like, "I'm consistent." You're consistent in pockets of time, but you need to be consistently consistent, not perfect. Perfection is never the goal. I think I used to think, it had to hit certain, very rigid, very A-type personality. I used to try to hit certain numbers. And at the end of the day, when I would track, I would hit to the calorie, to the gram. And that's not sustainable either. And so we train, or I coach in a range, have people, so that perfection is not the goal, I guess, essentially. So it's just getting those habits and being consistent. Some days you're going to be off. Some days you're going to be right on, and so it's just being consistent.
So Shelley, I want you to speak to the person that they may feel a little discouraged. They may be kind of where you were years ago. And I want you to speak hope into their life. Because a lot of people, they've just thrown in the towel. They've given up. And they thought, I don't think I can see any change happen. Would you just take a moment and just speak? What would you say to them?
Yeah. So, and then a lot of people like that are intimidated. They're maybe out of shape. Either they've been out of shape their whole life, or they're out of shape for the first time in their life. And so the thought of going to a gym or the thought of, getting into that lifestyle can be very scary. I will say that for me, I was very intimidated to strength train. Strength training was something that was missing in my life. I was losing muscle at a rapid rate, doing the Ironman with no strength training. And so I literally got bands and dumbbells and I started doing them in my bedroom, and then started noticing some changes. And so then I moved to the garage and then I built the confidence to go to the gym. And so I would just say to that person, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to do everything at once. You don't have to follow a perfect meal plan. Just make one little change at a time. Just work on one thing. Maybe if you don't exercise at all, maybe just get up off the couch and go for a 10-minute walk. It doesn't have to be much. You can do air squats, for 1 minute a day. They call them exercise snacks. Just start moving your body. That's so important. Then just start making little changes, adding to, don't take away. So they're like, oh, I don't want to be restrictive. Well, then start adding to. Say, okay, I'm not going to tell you you can't have something that you really want. So, but let's just add some, white fish to your, let's add a little more protein. Let's add some Greek yogurt. Okay, now we're doing that on a regular basis. We're getting our protein up. Let's maybe add in a vegetable, a serving 2 or 3 a day, build up, and then just keep moving, start strength training, then eventually get to the gym. And then I always tell people too, they're like, well, I wasn't really motivated today to go. I'm like, okay, that's fair. Sometimes we're not motivated. Sometimes our bodies are just not wanting to do it. Get to the gym. Start just 10 minutes. Give yourself 10 minutes, whatever it is, whether it's the walk, or if it's going to the gym, just give yourself 10 minutes. If you still don't want to be there, then go home. 9 times out of 10, you're going to complete what you started. So I would say it's just, it does change your life. It's not easy. It's a process. You have to learn how to give yourself grace because we're not going to be perfect. That's something I've had to work on, is giving myself grace. But just reach out, find somebody that is knowledgeable, find somebody, don't follow a fad diet because you're probably going to be disappointed at the end of that. Yo-yo dieting, rebound weight gain is very common, and you're better off not having lost the weight in the first place than you are to do something very restrictive, lose the weight, and then gain it back plus. So.
I love it, Shelley. I say that the wisdom of life is the elimination of the non-essentials. Mm-hmm. And a lot of us, we fill our lives with so many different activities or sometimes non-activities. Mm-hmm. And if we were to structure our lives a little bit better, when somebody works out for an hour a day, that's only 1/24 of your day.
Yeah.
That's it. Just 1/24. And to put a priority on your health is massively important, because if you take care of your body will take care of you. And we've got too much purpose. We've got too much call on our lives. We've got families to raise, people that look to us. Mm-hmm. And I think it's massively important. And, your life, your story, your vulnerability is, I think, massively encouraging for so many people. And, it's never too late to do the right thing. It's never too late.
It's never too late.
So like I ask people what are you waiting for? Why not? And you said it perfectly. Just take the first step. Just start small and don't expect that you're going to take over the world or what have you. Just start small. And these little steps, you're going to start gaining more and more confidence. And if need be, there's always the access of reaching out to a coach like what you did. Mm-hmm. If somebody wanted to reach out to you, and they said, hey, I want some more information. Like I need Shelley I want to hire Shelley to coach me. How do you do that? How would somebody do that?
They would email me, okay. And then I would send them a link for us to set up a call so I could talk to them a little bit about their lifestyle, what their goals are. I always like to do that because not everybody is a good match. And so and if I'm not a good match, I know a coach who would be. And so I like to talk a little bit about them. I want to hear about their life, their goals, their struggles, what has worked for them in the past, what doesn't work. So they would just email me. We would set that up, and then decide if coaching is right for them or not. Sometimes it's not the right time, but sometimes, it's that little bit of accountability that you need to be able to, okay, I don't feel like doing this. I'm not motivated, but I know I've got to check in with my coach. So I'm going to get that walk in. I'm going to get this extra serving of protein. I'm going to do this habit that we talked about. Sometimes that's all it takes to get you going, and they build, your habits build, your progress builds over time. And so
let me ask you one last question. If it was your last meal, your last meal, Shelley, what would you order? I mean, this is it. You're done. I mean, after this, what would you order?
I'm such a simple girl.
Okay.
I would love a good cheeseburger, good juicy cheeseburger with some crispy French fries.
Oh my goodness, you're making everybody hungry right now.
Yeah, and then some sort of chocolate baked good. That would be my last
Anything
meal.
chocolate?
Anything chocolate.
Okay, that's why you didn't pay them, my friends.
Yeah. So and I eat.
Would you have like a malt or something like that, or would you?
No, it would be like Brookies are the best because it's the best of both worlds. Okay. It's like a cookie and a brownie. Those are the best. And you stick a Reese's cup in the middle of it.
Oh my goodness. Is this podcast done? We need to go get some. Shelley, I can't thank you enough for being with us today. And you have been a massive blessing to Tatum and I know that you're helping to start now coach some of the others that are in the church. Yeah. And I really do believe that God has given you a great gift because you come in with great grace, incredible wisdom, a depth of education. Your husband is an ER doctor. I mean, you guys have all this depth to what you do, and you come in and we actually see great results. You are one of the most encouraging, uplifting, selfless individuals, and the way that you pour life into everybody, like the love of Christ just exudes out of you. And I'm so thankful for all that God has done on the inside of you. And I'm excited to see how God uses this gift of fitness and health to really impact so many other people's lives. And so a big thank you to you, Shelley. Thanks for being with us today at Speak Life.
Yeah, thank you.
Woohoo!